So while I was in China, I went to visit a coffee co-op and a coffee plantation over there in a region called Pu'er, which is really well known for high quality tea production. Now, the emphasis of this producer group on producing really high quality coffee really blew me away. And while I was there, I met Eric, who's one of the founders of the co-op, and we recorded a walking podcast around the plantation. Check it out. I hope you enjoy it. Eric.
Hey, Ray.
Tell me about your mission.
My mission, yeah. Mission is to help very small coffee farmers here in Yunnan province to actually have a hope of a better life by helping them make specialty coffee. That's what we started to do in 2016. We founded Coffee Commune here, Cafe Gongshi in Chinese. Because at that time, prices were not where they are today. Prices were very low and for many years. And the small farmers would just not be able to participate in the market directly. And so they got even less than what was market price, and that was less than they needed to survive on it. And my partner in this exercise, in this company, Mr. Zhu, he is himself a farmer originally, but became a coffee instructor, SCA coffee instructor, started the first coffee school here, taught me everything about coffee when I started. He and I had the same idea and vision, and so he and I embarked on this project. Oh yeah, look at him.
Little fish.
Yeah.
Fish in the road. How did he get there?
Yeah, good question.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Must have been a lot of water a little earlier. He came out of the little creek and was washed down here. Yeah, so we decided that we need to help them do three things. Equip them to make high quality coffee, specialty grade coffee. Invest in the machinery that they can't afford to consistently do that. So the processing station, the dry mill. And then become a bridge for direct trade for them, so that we have as little intermediaries as possible in that chain to the roaster. And eventually that led to us actually becoming a roaster ourselves. So we really have the whole vertical now here in China, from the farm, through processing, through dry milling, through roasting, to a couple of cafes.
So we just walked up from the processing area. We're heading up into the plantation. This is really cool. So who are the growers here? Who are the people generating? How did coffee end up here in the first place?
Yeah, so how did coffee end up here in the first place? It was brought here, so legend tells us, by a French missionary about 110 years ago now, who came to the Pu'er region, to a place called Zukula, where he started his mission station, and he wanted to have coffee, and so he brought viable seeds and planted them, and they actually sprang up, and one of those trees is still alive there, and you can visit the 100-year-old coffee tree.
100-year-old coffee tree.
Yes, but that wasn't the start of coffee industry here. That was just him having his coffee. It started in the 1980s, late 1980s. Tea prices had plummeted, and tea farmers in this whole area, this way, were struggling to survive. At that time, Chinese people had started to get exposed to coffee drinking, but it was instant coffees as ready mixes with milk powder and sugar, 3 in 1. There's some really nice red wisps there. And so that was mostly Nestle at the time. And so Nestle made a proposal to the provincial government saying, why don't you start growing coffee? We'll equip you for that. We'll help you select the varietal and all that, and we teach the farmers how to grow coffee properly, and we'll buy that coffee and we'll produce instant coffees for China here with Chinese coffee.
So they must have identified that this is a good region for growing coffee.
Yeah, so
Somehow.
they already bought a lot of coffee, obviously, in other places in the world. So they are quite knowledgeable about what it takes to grow coffee, and they decided that this is viable here, and it happened. So in the late 80s, the coffees were planted. The tea trees were uprooted, instead coffee trees were planted, and after about 4 years, they had their first crops of Catimor varietal. Almost all Yunnan coffee is Catimor. They picked that because it's much more resistant to disease than other Arabicas, obviously, and because it has a very high yield.
Catimor being a hybrid of Caturra and Robusta?
Well, yeah, I mean, when you go into the genealogy, then it's a hybrid of Caturra and Timor.
And Timor.
And Timor is a 50-50 hybrid of a Robusta and an Arabica. Right? So
yes.
that was created in Timor, right? That's why it's called Timor. And so it's clearly to be counted as an Arabica varietal, but because of a bit of that 25%, mathematically speaking, Robusta DNA, it is a bit less complex than maybe, say, even a Typica or a Caturra, to take the example of the one Arabica varietal that's in there genetically. But it has a very good body. It has a higher caffeine content as well. Gives you a very nice crema on extraction for espressos. So with a Catimor, you actually don't need to blend in Robusta in order to get that body and in order to get that crema.
But you've shown that through your processing methods that Catimor is capable of some very high quality flavors as well.
Yeah, thank you for that. It's a nice cue. Because that is really the key thing about Yunnan coffee. The market, the people that in the industry and the consumers didn't believe in Yunnan coffee. Because for the longest time, it was a relatively low-grade commercial coffee. And it had a by-name Yunnan taste, which was phenolic. Because
Okay.
it was typically dried on drying patios that were not well maintained. And there was very little education done as to what it takes to keep a coffee clean in terms of its flavor.
So that's okay if it's going into instant coffee
Exactly.
or some just commercial application.
If you roast very dark and process it further, maybe into already ground coffees that are sold at discount prices in discount stores, it doesn't matter, right? It's not going to be a connoisseur who's going to drink that. If it's processed into a soluble coffee, instant coffee, for sure you mask that entirely with the further processing. It didn't matter. So everybody was happy with that to start with, and even to this present day, big traders are very happy with that, but it's not helpful for the small farms because they don't have the efficiencies that big farms have, so their cost is anyway already higher. So they have no way of actually being able to make a living on commercial grade coffees when they only produce maybe 1 ton of coffee a year.
So
they have
in order
they have to feed a household of 4 generations with that.
So in order to stand out and do something different, you're doing some post-harvest processing that elevates the coffee.
Yeah, so we said the only way we can help these people sustainably is we need to work with them that they pay absolute attention to quality. Every step of the way just needs to be about quality, quality, quality.
So what's the starting point of that? What's the first step in that chain?
Yeah, so we decided we need to start with what they have, which is Catimor, planted Catimor, right? Because otherwise they would have to take a break for 4 years, which they can't afford either.
Yeah.
And then we need to help them do good, do well with what they have. So that means start with teaching them how to properly maintain their plantation. So we actually had to show them, like, if you have a tree that has sprouted 7 main stems, cut away 4 of the 7 and you will have more and better coffee in the end. Because otherwise it just spends so much of its strength into producing a lot of leaves, right? And of course they wouldn't believe it, so we would have to show them. And lo and behold, of course the next season they find the part where we trimmed them all away had more cherries and better cherries than the trees that they just kept the way they were and were thinking that way they have more coffee and better coffee.
So you had to develop a lot of trust with them as well.
Yes, which is where Mr. Zhu, who is our general manager for all Yunnan operations and a very trusted close friend of mine through our joint time here, comes in, because he himself was born son of a farmer, not in this province though, he moved here. But so he understands how farmers think. And he also speaks, because he's been here now for 2 decades, he speaks several of the minority dialects. Most of the coffee farmers that we work with are actually ethnic minorities.
Okay.
Because this is the area where you have Laos, Myanmar, Vietnam and China bordering each other.
We're very close to the borders of those
So
countries.
these minority tribes actually live on each side of the borders. The countries came later, basically.
Okay.
And so...
Just lines on a map, really.
Yes, exactly. And so so he works with them, speaking their language and spending time with them, literally staying with them. And so that way they develop that trust. If I, as a foreigner, had come and tried to speak in Mandarin with them about how they should be growing coffee, it would not have worked. So this is how now they trust me too, but that took much longer. And
So
yeah,
in terms of, let's say, the growers in this area, what proportion of coffee is their income, or how much of their income is contributed by coffee? Is it everything? Is it 20% of what they do?
yeah. So
Do
most
they do other things?
Yeah, so most of them, when we started here, like say a decade ago, were only living off the coffee that they were producing. So that aggravated the problem, obviously, because there was only the picking season when they could make money, and then somehow that had to last throughout the year.
It's getting pretty soggy up here.
Yeah.
How far are we going?
As far as you want. I mean, it's just you have some vantage points here where you can see stuff a little bit.
Cool. Let's go see.
That's why.
Yeah. So there's other crops. There's other forms of agriculture here as well.
Yeah. So we encourage them to have a second cash crop, to plant other trees in the midst of their coffee plantations. Macadamia is a popular one. That works pretty well. Of course, it's growing slow, so it takes some time until you actually have that income. But it's a very nice shade tree as well, so that helps with the coffee quality mid to long term as well.
I see bananas looks like it's popular. We see a
Yeah,
lot of this
bananas
around.
is one of the 3 main crops here. It's tea, bananas and coffee, right? These are the 3 main crops. But then there's also mango trees already around. And so that's also getting, right, that's what I came for with you here to this side. So this is actually quite rare what you see here, that we actually have pretty nice shade grown coffee areas. Most of it has been completely raised and then monoculture coffee trees. Most of Yunnan is unfortunately not shade grown.
I see some lines.
There's also some
lines
tea.
up there. Is that tea?
Yeah.
Is that terraced?
It's it's slightly terraced. It's not like the proverbial Yunnan terraces, but you can see it's steps. It's terraced. Yeah, and here's coffee. It's also, but you see, it's not perfectly terraced. It's still quite slippery when you walk it.
So getting up here to harvest, it's manual. There's no machinery or
Yeah,
equipment that
so
you can get up here.
that's part of the whole situation, right? They cannot ever compete with Brazil on a cost curve because it's all high up in the mountains, inaccessible to machinery. It's all got to have to be made by hand, picked by hand. It's going to have to be brought to a point where they can get to with a motorcycle. Then they have to bring what fits on a motorcycle to either a smaller washing station or to another place where there's enough road for a truck, and then it goes on a truck and from there it goes to the processing station. So there is a lot of inefficiencies just built in that they would not be able to overcome. So it has to be quality. So as you were saying earlier, what are the steps? So first is maintain your farm really well. Make sure that the trees are well maintained. Make sure that the trees are healthy. Make sure that everything is clean so that you combat insects, that you combat diseases without having to use chemicals, so that you can, even though it's not necessarily organic certified because they can't afford it, but it can be in direct trade relationships, you can make the true claim that it's farmed organically, even though it's not organic certified product. And then, of course, it goes into the processing. Now, the processing is something we want to teach them, because then they have more of the value chain if they can actually sell green rather than cherry. But most, like 99% of the farmers say thank you, but no thank you. I know how to grow coffee trees, and I'm grateful for what you taught me about getting better quality cherries out of what I plant, but you take care of the rest. So we normally purchase the cherry based on the quality standard. So we pay a premium for fully ripe cherry as opposed to the classic strip-picked cherry variety. And then we actually process it mostly at this point exclusively into honeys and naturals and of course anaerobics, because washing has been banned in this area in Pu'er because of the...
So you couldn't even do it if you wanted to.
Right. A lot of small washing stations had to shut down. There were lots of small stations, and that was the problem. They just would release the water after washing the coffee with all the mucilage in it into the rivers.
Which we know
and
is
that
toxic for the environment.
That would stink a lot. And downstream from here is a tourist area. And so that didn't go so well. And so they made a decision that this has to stop. And now it's either producing naturals and honeys without the washing involved, or trucking the cherries quite a long distance to different areas in Yunnan where there is no such ban, where there is larger washing stations that can process it.
Continue?
Yeah, so then we went into the processing and we developed our own systematic approach. I wouldn't call it scientific. I mean, it's not rocket science, but it's systematic. The key thing is just to pay attention to every step, to every detail, right? We called it Project 86 Plus. So for everyone who is in specialty coffee, it makes perfect sense. Everybody else asks, well, what does that mean? So when we started, there was no specialty coffee in Yunnan. And then our aspiration was not just to make specialty coffee, but to get to coffees that score 86 points or higher, with an ultimate hope that Cup of Excellence would come here and make Yunnan one of their origins where they actually do the competitions and the auctions eventually. That's still my dream. That's going to happen at some point. And that's obviously 87 points and above, right?
I see some new plants in here.
Yeah, that's interesting, right? But it doesn't actually really make sense to plant them that close to the road, but it's fine. But what you see much better here is a problem that we try to counteract. And you just see the whole plantation here. It's all very, very dense, right?
Yeah, actually getting between the trees.
They plant so dense that the trees actually take the sun off each other.
Okay.
And they keep too much of the foliage on the trees. They're not maintaining their plantations well enough. So that's what we
look
are.
how dense this is here. I mean, getting into the center there would be...
It's very hard.
Almost unreasonable, and I'm sure that would affect your cherry ripening.
Exactly.
On part of the tree.
Exactly.
You'll have probably part of the tree ripe and part of the tree is not ripe.
And you're much more prone to insects.
Yeah.
Affecting your tree health.
I guess clearing around the base as well.
Everything gets harder that way, right? So, but it really takes at least 2 seasons, because for them seeing is believing. Right? We have to show them, look, take every third tree out and trim the trees back and you will see you have not less but more coffee, and your coffee quality is better, and we can give you a better price for it. They will not believe it unless they've seen it. So it's a cycle of at least 2 seasons. Everywhere we go, it's a cycle of at least 2 seasons before people actually buy into it. And then once they've seen it and they actually got the cash, they know, okay, yeah, I get it, I'll do it. Like even this here, what you see here, is something that we will tell them, look, you cannot do this. This is a nesting place for the stem borer, right?
Is that a coffee tree?
No.
No, that's not. Oh, that leaves
it's
different. I thought it might be for a second. I was like, wow,
It's
that'd be
a
an
mango
old
tree.
mango tree.
Yeah.
Yes.
But so
this, look at these ants and everything.
This
down there.
must
There's
not
a
be,
whole
right? They have
ecosystem
to
in here
remove
already.
it and transport it away or burn it, or both, right? But they cannot leave it too long. So what's happened here is they cleared it out from within, which is already good. So they've done part of the job, but this also needs to go, because otherwise the stem borers will still grow here and they will go back in, and that can be devastating.
Are there any other pests or diseases?
Yeah,
that
so
affect you?
thanks to the choice of Catimor, there is very little we need to worry about. This part of Robusta DNA that's in it makes it quite resistant to fungal diseases. So that's not a big issue. And we are blessed here that we don't have a lot of insects, a lot of pests that are pestering other parts of the coffee growing world. So we don't have a lot to worry about. That's a good thing. But of course, it would look different with different varietals. People have started trying to plant Typica quite a while ago, and they have a lot of issues with fungal diseases because
Is it the humidity?
it's a humidity, it's a very humid climate, and we sometimes have prolonged times of rain. So it works, but it doesn't work that well. There's a lot of downside to planting Typica. So back to that rationale, over 90% of everything planted in Yunnan is Catimor. And so we said, well, every growing region has its profile that it's kind of known for, right? So you have the floral notes, citrusy notes that you know the Ethiopians for, and you have the chocolatey, nutty notes and the mild notes that you know Colombia, Central America for. So let's find out what we can produce here consistently out of what we have, out of Catimor. And so going into processing honeys and naturals, anaerobics, led us to 2 distinctions that roasters might be interested in trying Yunnan's out for. I might say 3, but one is always there no matter what you do. So one distinction is it's a stronger body coffee.
Yeah.
So if you want to make a coffee that has a good body without becoming harsh or astringent, Catimor is a good varietal to choose. The second that we can work on through the processing is a very sweet coffee. To really get like honeys, get them very sweet but clean like a washed. So we get a lot of cuppings where people can't tell if it's a honey because they say, it's so sweet, it must be a honey, but it's so clean, it must be a washed. So that's something that we try to really improve year after year to get more and more clean with a maximum sweetness. And the other one is the naturals and the anaerobics, where we managed to get this coffee an aftertaste, the final note of pu'er tea.
Okay.
And
That's a
that is
unique
interesting
note.
because we're in pu'er and people around the world know pu'er tea. They know what pu'er tea tastes like, right? So with the anaerobics in particular, but even with the regular naturals.
This is gorgeous up here.
It is, right? That's all farms that we work with here. What you see down here is all coffee farms that we work with. That's that road that you see down there is the road that we came up to our processing station. That is the road that we took. So with the naturals and with the natural anaerobics, We consistently can produce tropical fruit notes. Depending on your roast degree, dry tropical fruit notes. We consistently get a nice, clean red wine note there in the middle of it. And then, of course, there is chocolatey notes when you get darker into the espresso roasts, and it finishes on a very subtle hint of pu'er tea, which I haven't tasted in any other coffees. I cannot claim that we intentionally tried to produce that. We were just doing a lot of iterations, trying to see what can we find that's distinctive for here. That one came out, and that was very nice because from a marketing perspective, that works really well. This coffee is from pu'er. It has an aftertaste of pu'er tea.
Something, it's a signature.
Yeah, it's a bit of a signature.
To the region.
Yes, exactly.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well,
so with that, we still didn't solve the problem that people didn't think that pu'er coffee or Yunnan coffee is good.
mm-hmm.
And so even though we knew it's good, nobody would want to try it. And so we had to find a way to make sure people believe it. And so that's where the golden bean comes in, right?
So you put your coffee into competitions?
We put our coffee into the golden bean competitions. The first time was in 2018 when we couldn't participate because we're China-based.
Yes.
But a New Zealand roaster that was the 2022 champion, Coffee Tech, he's very friendly, and he completely buys into our mission to help the small farmers. So he said, Alan Joel.
If anyone knows Alan, he's a very characteristic individual.
Yes, he is. And so he said, okay, Eric, look, I'm going to buy some of your coffees and I'm going to put them into the golden bean. And if I win something, I'll acknowledge that it's P86 Plus, Project 86 Plus coffee. And so he called it Yunnan P86 Plus, and he won a silver medal with it. And that was the starting point. So people started taking note that there is a possibility that a single origin Yunnan can actually win not just a bronze, but actually a silver, and it was not too far away from the points to win a gold maybe. And so that encouraged us then to say, like, okay, let's keep doing that. And then Sean opened the golden bean to Asia in Australia. So in 22 we were able to enter, and we consistently added our medal count. We increased our medal count, but sticking with our concept to Yunnan SOEs or blends that are based on Yunnan. There might be another origin in it, but the core component is still Yunnan, right? And we did really well with it. And now people have believed outside of China, but more importantly, actually inside China, that their own coffee is not just drinkable, but it is actually a distinctive coffee that is worthwhile trying.
It is. I think the reputation with Chinese products sometimes in general is that it's mass manufactured, commercial, won't last very long.
Yes.
And so it's a reputation thing that needs to be undone.
And it takes time.
It takes time. You've got to prove yourself over and over again.
Time and dedication, because just time will not solve it. You have to keep delivering, right? If you have 5 years and out of those 5 years, 2 years are good and 3 are not, you're just rubbing it in that it's not good.
That's right.
But if you keep at it and it keeps delivering, then people will eventually change their mind and say, like, oh, actually, this is good.
Well, that's why we're here. We're here to to see what the possibilities are, and it looks like this is a little slice of heaven, to be honest. It's a beautiful environment. It's cool up here. It's lovely. What a fantastic insight into Yunnan coffee. Thank you.
You're welcome, Ray. You're always welcome.